Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you're watching the Vigilante, folks. This don't go away because we here at the Vigilante won't let it go away. Started talking to Epstein in 2019 when he got arrested, and we're not up. One of the reasons honest for over. So you can see the scroll below to support what we're doing, because this is the People's Channel. You're the best fans in the interweb. You guys do it. You guys make this channel happen. So go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. They don't censor us at Rockfin at all, which I love. And there's a Venmo. I have a P.O. box on my website, grahamelwood.com. There's a newsletter to sign up that's free. There's a lot of great ways to support what we're doing, because we have to keep bringing this information to you, even though they don't want us to talk about this. I've been demonetized. I've had 5 Instagram ads rejected from clips from my stand-up special, Manifest It, which is also at grahamelwood.com, for being too political. And I got to believe it's talking about Epstein, because I just won't let this go, because it should be, when all these arrests, there should just be a wall of indictments and people getting arrested and release all of the names. So we just get these little trickles, but a new one has come out, and it's, some of the names on it. Noam Chomsky. So here it is. This was in Rolling Stone. It's on a bunch of different organizations. CIA director and Noam Chomsky named in Epstein's private calendar. The private date book yields previously unknown connections to the now deceased sex offender. So this is his date book. This is different. We've covered flight logs. And I'm not making excuses for anybody on this date book at all, but I'm saying there is a difference in terms of potentially that the flight logs where it shows you flew to Epstein's island, that's very incriminating. I'm sorry, that's very incriminating. You just met with Epstein may or may not be incriminating. Again, obviously we're talking about Noam Chomsky. I have a lot of respect for Noam Chomsky. I don't know him personally. I have a lot of respect for him professionally. So to hear that he's involved in Epstein is really disappointing and alarming. But if he's guilty, then he needs to be held accountable. I don't care who he is. If he's not guilty, then we need to discuss that as well. So I'm going to try to be as fair about this as I possibly can. So let's get it. Let's just get into it. So what happened? We don't want that ad there. Jeffrey Epstein's calendar is revealing secrets years after the billionaire's death in a New York prison. Remember his flight logs or his black book, both of which have been made public. Well, yes, what hasn't been made public, and again, this is what they keep kind of just releasing these little side things. I talk about this every Epstein story, right? Remember when he got arrested in 2019, in July of 2019, and there's those FBI video of the FBI on this for the next 10 years. But so now we got his calendar. Okay. None of these names reported by the paper on Sunday appeared in either of those documents, meaning that none of the people in his calendar also with a lot of people. And we've talked about this, like when I did a story 3 years ago on, he invited a bunch of scientists to his New Mexico facility to talk about creating a master race or whatever. He's a eugenicist. Jeffrey Epstein was a eugenicist. He was nuts and evil. In that, I could totally see how, hey, a scientist, because scientists, you need funding for your projects. So I could see, like, you met with the guy once, you flew on his plane one time to his house and went, oh, this guy, I don't trust this guy at all. There's a plausible deniability in that. You go there a bunch of times, there's photos with you, there's young women around, you know what I mean? Like, then it's like, it becomes way more guilty. So we're going to try to determine, and it's an important distinction as it is made here in this article by the Rolling Stone, which has picked up the story from Wall Street Journal. Again, maybe they're covering for people. I don't know. I'm just going off of what I'm reading. None of the names reported by the paper on Sunday appeared in either of those documents, which is the flight logs or his black book. So the calendar people, according to Wall Street Journal, the people in his calendar, none of them also appeared in the flight logs of the black book. Okay. The scheduled meetings, not all of which could be confirmed as having taken place, were planned for the years after sex offender. That is significant. So there's a lot of people that had interactions with Epstein after he was convicted in 08 and 09, when he served that whatever 14 or 16 month slap on the wrist. We've talked about that at great length on this show, how, Acosta gave him a light sentence and was told he was a CIA asset to go easy on him. Acosta was, of course, then appointed by Trump. So there's a lot of things happened after that arrest in 08. A lot of people associating with Epstein even after that arrest. So that is significant. The calendar showed that in 2014, while current CIA Director William Burns was Deputy Secretary of State, Burns had 3 meetings scheduled at Epstein. First meeting, accusations long swirled around about Epstein that there was some kind of intelligence out of you or whatever, leverage your power for this, that, or the other thing. So we know that's how Epstein did it. We know that's how Epstein had a fake hedge fund that he laundered money through. Basically, there was no real trades done with it. So this is significant. So the fact that who's now current CIA director, who was then Deputy Secretary of State Burns, right, had 3 meetings with Epstein. The first was in Washington. Okay. But again, even if there was nothing sexual in nature with Burns' meeting with Epstein, again, it still lends credibility to the fact that Epstein was a CIA asset, right? CIA spokesperson Tammy Kupperman Thorpe issued a statement to the paper denying that Burns knew anything about Epstein at the time. Oh, well, if the CIA issued a statement, I believe that. I always believe the CIA. The director did not any sex acts. He's not, maybe, okay, so he's not a pedophile, but then why is he, at the very least, they're aware of Epstein's financial shadiness, right? And then this begs the question. So the Deputy Secretary of State, so there's a secretary, it's basically like the Vice President. The Secretary of State is one of the top positions in any cabinet, right? It's a huge position. Secretary of State is above Secretary of Defense, right? So, and they're like 4th in line for the president or something like that. So Deputy Secretary of State. So I find it hard to believe that the Deputy Secretary of State meets with Jeffrey Epstein or anybody at that level and there's not a background check. Oh, he's just a money guy, I guess. He's into modeling. We didn't know. We're just the Secretary of State's office. We're just the Pentagon. The State Department, we didn't know. I mean, people have lunch with people all the time. Okay, so now I don't buy it. Chomsky, a political activist and public intellectual who was a longtime professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, had several meetings scheduled with Epstein between 2015 and 2016. When the Journal contacted Chomsky to ask about the meetings, he responded in an email. First response is that it's none of your business or anyone. Second is that I knew him and we met occasionally. I don't know that I would have picked those words, Mr. Chomsky. One of Chomsky's meetings with Epstein involved former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Chomsky said they discussed Israel's policies with regard to Palestinian issues and the international arena. That could very well be the truth. I mean, in another scheduled meeting with Chomsky, Epstein planned to fly the scholar in to dine with director Woody Allen and his wife, Sunyi Previn. If there was a flight, which I doubt, it would have been from Boston to New York, 30 minutes, Chomsky told the paper. I'm unaware of the principle that requires that I inform you about an evening spent with a great artist. That doesn't, I got to say this. I mean, I understand Chomsky's point of view in that because he's an anti-war activist and he's in favor of Julian Assange being free and he's critical of Israel. I can understand he probably gets attacked by the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post all the time as a lefty Kremlin puppet or whatever. And he's been critical of NATO's involvement in Ukraine. So I could see how somebody like an activist like Chomsky would be like, but having dinner with a great artist, I don't know if it's that Chomsky's 94 years old and he's just out of touch with all the accusations about Woody Allen, the documentary, and how Woody Allen was abusing his kids. This doesn't look good. So either Chomsky knew about all this stuff or he's just woefully ignorant. He just went, oh, I want to have dinner with Woody Allen without knowing. Maybe he's so locked into his activism and being a professor. Again, maybe I'm trying to give Chomsky too much of the benefit of the doubt here. I don't know, but this doesn't sound good to me, to my ears. Chomsky went on to say that when he met with Epstein, what was known about Epstein was that he had been convicted of a crime and had served his sentence. According to U.S. laws and norms, that yields a clean slate. Epstein also had a close relationship with MIT, making several donations to the university while he was alive. I see Chomsky saying, well, the guy served his time. He's done. So I want to meet with him, and he's donated to my university. So I don't know. I'm trying. Another figure listed in Epstein's calendar is Leon Botstein, the president of Bard College. According to the journal, Epstein was invited to Bard's campus, and he brought with him a group of young female guests. Epstein said that cultivated relationship. Botstein said that cultivated a relationship with Epstein in the hopes he would make a donation. And in 2012, the college president met up with Epstein to thank him for donating 66 laptops to Bard high schools. The calendar reveals approximately 24 meetings between Botstein and Epstein over the course of 4 years, with most taking place at Epstein's townhouse. That sounds a little more guilty. But let me go back to the Chomsky thing, because there's another. This came out in Democracy Now. Because Chomsky's been on Democracy Now a lot, even recently, talking about Ukraine and everything else. So, and again, this is Chomsky confirmed to the Harvard Crimson that he knew Epstein, writing in an email to the paper. Like all of those in Cambridge who met and knew him, we knew that he'd been convicted and served at his time, which means that he re-enters society under prevailing norms, Chomsky wrote. I've met all sorts of people, including major war criminals. I don't regret having met any of them. Okay. That quote is a fair thing. If Noam Chomsky's met a lot of people just to interview them about this subject or that subject, or talk with them, because Chomsky, while he is a professor, currently at University of Arizona in Tucson, my alma mater, he also has been somewhat of a journalist over the years. He's an author. He's written several books, and I'm sure he's had to meet with and interview a lot of different people. So, that's a fair thing to say. I've met with war criminals and other people. That doesn't mean I'm guilty just because I met with them. Now that supports because if Chomsky isn't on the flight logs and isn't in Epstein's black book, and they only met supposedly 3 times, that tells me that maybe he wasn't really, he maybe knew Epstein was not the greatest guy in the world, didn't know the fullest extent of him, knew he wasn't the greatest guy in the world, but said, well, I've met with other awful people. That I can kind of buy. Kind of. So let's go back to this Botstein from the president of Bard College. I was an unsuccessful fundraiser and actually the object of a little bit of sadism on his part in dangling philanthropic support, Botstein told the Journal. That was my relationship with him. Discussing Epstein's criminal record, Botstein said, we looked him up and he was a convicted felon for a sex crime. We believe in rehabilitation. I will say this. I'm going to say this part about we believe in rehabilitation. I think that's we need donor money speaking. Hey man, this person wants to write me a check. They serve their time, as long as their check cleared. I think there's some of that. This is just my opinion on this, is like, let's say somebody made a sizable donation to fund this show and they just wrote me a big check. And I didn't really know much about the person. And I was like, all right, I guess whatever. Some guy wants to donate a bunch of money to this show, like a big check, let's say like about $5 million. And oh my God, I can build a whole studio and I have a staff and, advertising, and we can really get this show out there. And I can be on a salary and this will be great. And then I find out, and I was like, this guy was convicted. And I'm like, oh, well, but he served his time. All right, he convicted and served his time. And in the back of my mind, I would kind of be like, well, the check cleared. I mean, there would be a part of me that would go, if we say yes to this money, there's so much good we can do with it. All right, some evil guy wants to write me. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of going through my own rationalizations here. I can't claim to be inside what this bots team never met him. Noam Chomsky never met him. But I'm trying to think like that could maybe make sense. That makes a little more sense to me than, Bill Clinton just lying, saying, oh, I was playing 4 times. The flight log showed 26, Bill. You didn't bring your Secret Service detail, which ex-presidents get Secret Service the rest of their lives, right? They get Secret Service the rest of their lives. I remember running into, in the 90s, when I first moved to LA, 98, I saw Reagan. I was working at this fancy hotel, Shutters on the beach in Santa Monica. And I saw Reagan there, and he clearly, like, the dementia had hit. His eyes looked very vacant, but he was with Secret Service. I mean, there's no secrets he could even remember. There's nothing, but he was with Secret Service. He had that detail to the day he died. So the Clintons, it sounds, the evidence is way more damning with like the Clintons. Like Ghislaine Maxwell was at their daughter's wedding 2 years after she settled out of court. They went to Epstein's house in New Mexico numerous times after the 2009 conviction. So I don't know. I mean, but the bigger issue here, I think, is I'm not like, if more evidence comes out against Noam Chomsky, then right now, based on what I've read, what just these articles and what he said, it doesn't seem like enough to me. It sounds like some university people that just needed donor money. Because look, I mean, if the Koch brothers wanted to donate to a university, they would say yes, they would take the money. They would absolutely take the money. They would absolutely take the money. So there's that. But I think as I unpack this and read this, what really pops into my mind is this seems like more distracting. So we read through this article, is Chomsky guilty? Is this, let's all get us debating on that one, rather than there's really seriously guilty people. Why isn't Prince Andrew in handcuffs and facing trial and in America, right? Why isn't Lex Wessner on trial? Why isn't Alan Dershowitz on trial? Why aren't people like, why isn't Trump and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, why aren't they on trial? Like, they're arresting Trump, he's for this Stormy Daniels nonsense, because if they arrested him for being a war criminal and ties to Epstein, well, then they'd have to arrest a bunch of presidents. So I would say that this could, looking through the fact that no one on this calendar is also on his flight logs, the people that are on his calendar and on his flight logs, I would look at seriously. Not that this calendar isn't valuable evidence. The real evidence, though, is if they flew to they went there to have sex with children. That's what they went there for. So let's be real clear on that. And that's the names of the list we need. Those are the people we need indicted. And they're not even close. Prince Andrew, there's not even talking about it. So that's what I want to be clear on. Don't let this distract us from the actual very powerful people. If Chomsky did something, then sure, he should go to jail. But this reeks of a distraction to me. That's, in reading this, it reeks of a distraction. We'll go through the last one here. Back to the last person here. And Epstein in Paris in 2015 and a 2017 trip to his private Caribbean island. Well, that sounds guilty to me. That sounds guilty to me. So, meaning about moving into the private sector, again, the island. We know the island is where so much evil sexual assault of minors and trafficking took place. So you went to the island. You went to his office in Manhattan to try to get a donor check. Okay. But you went to his island? That's guilty for me. That's guilty for me. A Goldman Sachs spokesperson told the Journal that Mueller had a professional relationship with Epstein related to her job at a law firm of Latham and Watkins LLP. She did not travel. And that could be it. She had a couple meetings, wanted to get some business information, heard some rumors about him, and now she's being called a sex trafficker. That could be true. But if she traveled, if there are no flight log, I mean, if there's a flight log shows up where she went out there, don't think that there aren't. So let's just see what else is on Democracy Now. Yeah. So like Lawrence Summers, we go back to this story, and that Lawrence Summers was in his date book. We know Summers is guilty. Summers, we've talked about Summers numerous times. He worked at JP Morgan Chase under Jamie Dimon. There's that photo that I've shown you millions of times. Lawrence Summers was Secretary of Treasury. Summers has appeared on flight logs. So Summers is guilty as the day is long, in my opinion. Chomsky, I don't think so. And this Obama press secretary, she feels a little guilty to me. She was planning on going to his island. Come on now. Oh, you're just going to go there to talk about Goldman Sachs, are you? Mm-hmm. Guilty. So there it is, folks. More Epstein stuff. It's important to pay attention to his date book. But this, again, is more distracting. Release the names. Prince Andrew needs to be indicted. He needs to be in handcuffs, and he needs to be sent to the United States to stand trial. Les Wexner needs to be arrested and he needs to stand trial. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton need to stand trial for this. Anyone, and the FBI needs to go through all of this hard evidence, which I'm sure they already have, and start making indictments. Let's not forget, Ghislaine Maxwell got moved a year ago. It was right around this first week of May, a year ago. Remember when the SCOTUS leak about, they were thinking about getting rid of Roe v. Wade, and then all that talk was happening, right? And then June, Allison Nathan, on May 3rd, I believe, last year, said she was going to she limited the maximum sentencing for her. And then in June of last year, Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a minimum security prison in Florida. Remember that? You guys who watch this show, you remember that. So why aren't we talking about that? We're talking about some names in a calendar. The names in the calendar should be like, let's mention these names, and then let's get back to the people that there's hard evidence on. And why didn't Trump, if he was so going to get Epstein, why didn't he designate a special prosecutor in this case? This is what you would do with a huge case like this, like a RICO Act case, which is organized crime. Why didn't they do that? Biden's done nothing about it. Trump did nothing about it. It's all talk because they're all guilty. The flight logs, guys, the flight logs and the hard evidence that was seized from Epstein's penthouse in Manhattan and all the stuff that was seized from his island in the Virgin Islands. Where is all of that? Where is the global sex trafficking ring run by the most powerful people in the world? That's the real question. Support what we're doing, guys. Don't fall for the smoke and mirrors when it comes to Epstein. They want to get us all arguing about some sensational stuff about Epstein. They want us to be distracted from the real people, the billionaire ruling elites. Right? So support our show, guys. I'm going to be in Arizona next week, Phoenix, May 11th, Tucson, May 12th. I'm doing stand-up comedy. Come out to a live show. I'm at Stir Crazy Comedy Club in Phoenix, May 11th, and the Screening Room in Tucson, May 12th. Tickets are at GrahamElwood.com. Also, my special Manifested is available at GrahamElwood.com. You can sign up for my newsletter at GrahamElwood.com. So come out to a live show, subscribe to the newsletter, and we'll see you soon. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. Boom. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our ninth month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/GrahamElwood or rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood, and go to grahamelwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.